Joe, what's happening, buddy? How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Doing all right, Joe. I got to tell you, so last year, Tiki and I are both very big golf fans, and last year, Fox gets and I thought you handled it pretty well, the arduous task of navigating a very tough golf course in Chambers Bay. Logistically, it was not easy to do that, we know. And this year, you had to deal with the mountain of a mess that was bestowed upon Dustin Johnson in the middle of the round when he's trying to wrap up his first major. And I watched all the coverage. I thought you navigated it very well. But, man, your head must have been spinning dealing with that nonsense, huh?
It was crazy. It's the first time I've ever done an event nationally, locally, in my head, where you don't know the score. It's like it's the broadcaster's nightmare of when you show up and you can't see anybody's name or number. You don't know what teams are playing. You don't know the score. So you have this national championship going on, and Dustin Johnson may be leading by 2, maybe leading by 1, maybe tied for the lead. Thankfully, he played actually better after he found out the news. Certainly the last 3 holes, birdied 18, and he saved the USGA from what would have been a mess had he not. So, yeah, it was crazy, but they were great. They sent a guy, Jeff Hall, up, and we talked about it, and nobody from Fox said, hey, let's back off. You had to throw it all out there. And, as I said, thankfully he won by more than 1.
But, Joe, what was the amount of traffic? I mean, the relay, as you're getting stuff relayed to you from the truck in your ear, try to disseminate in real time and put it out there, for basically, I don't know how many tens of millions of people that were watching the U.S. Open. That probably was one of the trickier spots you've been in your career.
Yeah, it was. Just because you can't plan for everything, but you can certainly put a game plan together, and it's going to fit within it somewhere. Not knowing the score at the end of 4 days of coverage and in the final hour was weird. But I think that's what they pay for. That's what they pay you for, and if you can't handle that, then you shouldn't be sitting there. But it certainly was surreal, to say the least.
Joe, obviously I know you from your football days, or not days because you're still doing it, but calling football games. But you've done baseball. You're now doing golf. You have Undeniable with Joe Buck. How in the heck do you find time to do anything other than call games? And how do you keep it all straight in your head?
Well, it's hard. First of all, I got to get you on that Undeniable show. And secondly, it's a lot of juggling, but it keeps you active and it keeps you fresh and it keeps you busy. I work with Troy in football, and I work with John Smoltz now in baseball, and I work with Paul Azinger and Brad Faxon in golf, and they're the experts. I try to, I do all my homework, and I try to set them up as best I can. So it's fun. I love doing all that stuff, just like I know you guys cover it all when you're sitting there every day. It just keeps your mind working, and that's a good thing.
No doubt. So to Joe Buck, and Joe is with us here on Tiki and Tierney, CBS Sports Radio.
Now, Joe, my brother is one of your colleagues. He calls games, does the analyst work for Fox, and he doesn't have any social media at all. He doesn't see it, but people end up tweeting me or Facebooking me saying, "Oh, Ronnie sucks. How do you handle this? He got this wrong." How do you handle the criticism? And we just saw an interview that you did on a podcast. You basically said, "I don't care anymore." I mean, is that kind of what you have to believe as someone who gets criticized for even doing the right thing?
Yeah, Tiki, at some point you have to just not care. And it's a different era, and it's unfortunate on one level. I think social media is great. I use it as a tool. I think it's really, it's taken down a government. And so it's powerful. But for the sports fan, it's a way to vent.
Yes.
And so I get it. I find myself reaching for my phone sometimes. I'm like, well, wait a minute. I'm not going to go down the same path others do, but I understand why they do, because they're emotional and they care about what they're watching and they care about their team. And if you're the outsider when you're me and you show up, so they perceive that you're against them because you're not rooting for them. So it's easy to put it in its own category. And at some point, you just have to kind of laugh it off. Otherwise, you'd never open your mouth again. So it's a necessary evil. The bad part about it, as I was going earlier, is it's driven everybody into Boringville. If you're willing to step out of the middle lane and say something with opinion or humor or whatever, don't even bother going on social media, or you're going to be scared right back into being a drip. And I'm tired of worrying about what everybody thinks. And, I work for Fox. And if they don't like what I'm doing, that's one thing. If Billy Joe 842 doesn't like it, I really don't care.
I couldn't agree more, Joe. I've got to be honest. I wish, I don't consider myself a journalist, and neither does Tiki. I mean, we give opinions, we do radio, we do TV, whatever. But if I wish some of your peers, guys who are coming up in the game, listen, I'm a big baseball fan, and I listen to a lot of the broadcast on MLB Network. Every night I bounce around. The broadcasts have become so stuffy and so benign and so empty. It's really frustrating. Everybody's terrified to say anything. So, I mean, maybe you got to say this in a bigger forum. Maybe our show's a good start, that Barstool, whatever you did the other day. But keep saying this because the sports industry is becoming very paralyzed the way people are afraid to speak, and it sucks.
Yeah, honest to God, I could not agree with you more. You think about the great broadcasters. Vin Scully's going out this year, and so everybody thinks romantically about back in the day. My dad was one of those guys, and Bob Prince in Pittsburgh, and Harry Carey, and those guys had personalities, and they said stuff that would not be politically correct today. There's stuff my dad said on the air that would get him literally fired before the end of the broadcast, and it's too bad because they're all known as, oh, those guys were so great back in the day. Well, those people aren't extinct. It's just that you're not really allowed to say anything because everybody's so ready to get mad about whatever's coming out of somebody's mouth. You see in the political world, it's just nasty.
Yeah.
And it's too bad.
Joe, you know what I call it, Joe? Joe, I call it pseudo-rage. I think half the things that people really react to, whether it's the sports world or politics, now some things really do strike a chord, and some things we really need to have intelligent discussions about. But I think people are so programmed to just snap back and fire off a visceral tweet when in reality it doesn't even bother them.
No, I agree. And, the problem is then lazy writers write about it, and they take that as being the national voice. And, you just realize that that's not it's talked about, but that's not how people really feel to their core. And, I'm looked at as a thing, not a person. And so you get beat up on social media, but who cares? It just becomes a competition to be who can be meaner, and after a while, you just don't care. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, talking the truth so far. Joe Buck with us here on Tiki and Tierney, CBS Sports Radio.
What's a more important truth is skin cancer. I didn't realize this until I'm reading it now. Your mother was diagnosed with melanoma. First of all, how's she doing? And tell us what you have going on with skin cancer awareness.
Yeah, well, she's fine. And, I've joked that I come from a long line of hypochondriacs. But in this case, hypochondriacal behavior is good because she saw a spot, she got it checked, it was melanoma, but it was early detection, and it was highly treatable, and she's fine, knock on wood. But we're all aware of it in our family now. Skin cancer is the most common form of cancer in the United States. One person dies from melanoma every hour, and 8,500 people a day are being diagnosed with skin cancer. And if you're diagnosed with it, then it can, become worse and worse of a situation. So there's a website, spotme.org, where you can find a free screening in your area, but you have to be diligent with not only protecting yourself from the sun, but checking your skin. And nobody's going to be perfect with protecting themselves, so they have to check your skin. And if you see something that's changing color or shape or doesn't look right, get it checked.
Yeah, my dad's battled that, and I'm half Irish, half Italian. So the Italian, when I was young, I used to slather like oil on me at the beach like an idiot.
Yeah.
You know how it was, Joe, back in the day in the
Absolutely.
90s. And now it's like, okay, it's a very important message that hopefully some people adhere to. Joe, really good catching up, man. Go do your thing and keeping it loose, man. It's stifling. Just keep doing your thing, bro.
All right, guys. Thanks.